Stratton, right?
Yep.
How you doing, man?
Good, bro. How about you? Thank you for having me
Good,
on.
good, good. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, you told me before the stream something awesome. So you launched this. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and virtual help?
Yeah. My name's Stratton Brown. I guess I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur. We own a couple different companies, Virtual Help being one of them, that
Okay.
primarily services it. We started it off as a call center, and then we pivoted into just straight up staffing because we saw the AI wave coming,
Yeah.
and I see call centers getting eliminated. So there's like not a point in doing it much longer because with there's a bunch of A2P stuff and everything else that's getting in the way. And so now we staff world class talent to small business owners.
And what kind of talent?
We hire from over 13 different countries. Like we hire globally. And so if someone needs like an operations person, an administrative assistant, a sales rep, a follow up manager, social media manager, roles like that. And if somebody does need like cold outbound, we'll staff that up for them as well.
That's cool. So pretty much and almost anything, or engineers as well, or
Um,
designers.
Designers, I don't really do engineers because I wouldn't know how to tell someone it's a good candidate, and I'd have
Got
to
it.
go find someone to know that that person's a good candidate, you know. And
Got
so
it.
I wouldn't be able to deliver a decent product. With most of the other stuff, you can tell someone's bright enough operationally and what their background is and whatever their experiences are, and ask them good questions. I wouldn't know where to start to ask an engineer, like to like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
fish out how talented are you. I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
know.
For sure. For sure. And also like you. So you said you got to $1 million the first year in revenue?
Yeah, we did $1 million in the first 18 months.
Wow, that's very impressive. And you started off on your own. Do you have co-founders or you're on your own?
I had a co-founder. I'm on my own now, but it was all really through social media. I think now more than ever, entrepreneurs should be going as hard as they can on social and getting. I got on this podcast because it said you raised the seed round, and I was interested in that. But
Oh,
generally, if you can get on social and get in front of as many eyeballs as possible, like if Ray Dalio's going on podcasts, like we we should probably be
that's a good
building
point.
our personal brand as well. I mean, one of the best investors of all time is going on
Yeah, he's a
podcasts.
it's so true. I mean, I just started myself, and it's a very interesting. I mean, it's like baby steps, right? In the beginning, you're like you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you have no audience, you have no yeah. So but yeah, you're right. Everyone's getting in on it because you need distribution, and ads are not as good as they used to be. I feel
No,
like
and well,
ads. What? Sorry, continue.
you can get really, really good distribution a couple years ago with TikTok, but like I started it with like Facebook Lives of how you're doing with Twitch. I would get like StreamYard or whatever. And because I personally believe our first customers are going to be the people who know us and like us. And the easiest way for us to do that is just with like our Facebook and Instagram account and go live. And
Yeah.
then people like, there'll just be at least awareness there. Right. And then they can tell their friends, and I'd have people like share our live streams and everything else. And that's how I got bigger distribution through social media channels. And then I went and I paid a good affiliate fee, is how we got it really big. Because I pitched it to, because we were primarily servicing real estate investors.
Yeah.
And so I'd tell them, hey, you want to go buy a house that makes you $300 a month. If you just bring us a client, I'll pay you $300 a month for the lifetime of that client. Right. And I was like, and that's way
Wow.
easier than tenants and toilets and everything else. So if you can come up with a really good affiliate model and you two can both make money, we were writing like ten to $20,000 checks to some of our affiliates.
Wow. Yeah. So that's actually a really. I feel like people don't do affiliates as much, and they should, right? Like there's just something very powerful to utilize. I
It's
always felt like in a.
good.
So, so a quick question. So okay, so you did this in 18 months, which is insanely impressive, and then you got it mostly. So most of your clients came from social media.
Yeah, I never ran a paid ad. I went and I sponsored a like a real estate meetup once,
Yeah.
and we got like one client from it. But
Wow.
took me
Yeah.
like 2 days, and like I went there, talked to a bunch of people, and I was like, yeah, this ain't worth it. Like we'll get better distribution by just doing more podcasts, having my own podcasts, and then going really hard on my Instagram account and Facebook. And to where if you can get content marketing, I think I'm not good at it on Twitter. Twitter's like more of your space of like where all the Silicon Valley dudes and like
Yeah.
tech founders are. but it's a really, really good way. Nick Huber runs a company similar to mine, or he invests in a company similar to mine. And I believe they are doing multiple 8 figures now. And Nick Huber and Sean Purry have driven most of the traffic through content.
Well, you know that like your space is very vague in terms of that it could fit in the what's it called, tech category, because like I actually was a senior at what's it called, TopTal, which is like a very big staffing company. I don't
Okay.
know if you heard of them,
Uh,
and they're like in the tech adjacent cat. I mean, they're still considered tech. They raise money like a tech company. They're multi-billion-dollar business. They raised money from Andreessen Horowitz and
really?
I forgot. Yeah. So you guys, you sit a little bit. You could sit in that world, kind of, right? And especially with your revenues. At the end of the day, I think investors care about scale. They don't give a fuck about.
Yeah, but I think it's not a very, we own other companies and this one's been good cash flowing. We started another one that we took to 7 figures in like 18 months again. That was in a different
Wow.
space. But with this, I mean, because whenever you're analyzing it, I think it's a little bit more of a red ocean, right? If you read like Blue Ocean Theory, because
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of competitors. And yeah, you can hit scale, but I did the math. In order to hit like $10 million in EBITDA or whatever, I gotta have thousands and thousands and thousands of employees. To where to me, that doesn't sound like awesome scale. Like I wouldn't want to do like venture backed invest into that. Because like if you want to build in your recurring revenue, then the best way to do that, there's a company that has like a payment processor attached to it, to where if you hire someone through them, you have to pay that person through their payment processor, which
Yeah.
is okay. And then there's just the staffing aspect where you're going to make an arbitrage on the hourly, right? To where if you're going to make an arbitrage on the hourly, the only way to grow that is just by increasing the lifetime value of that person and by bringing on more employees. And then like tons of levels of management and people management and yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. You seem like you're very knowledgeable. You launched two companies within 18 months to seven figures. What, like, let's say right now there's a starting entrepreneur who's asking you for advice and he has a good idea. Like, how would you recommend today, after all the stuff that you just said, that ads are, and I agree with you, by the way, I've spent millions of dollars on ads per year, and like now I just zero. I went to zero because it just doesn't, I mean, it's not the glory days, like of Facebook. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've done the Facebook days when it
I
was
was
good.
never in I was never in like the glory Facebook days. A couple of my friends crushed it in ecom during that time, and I probably should have done ecom and made gobbles of money like they did, but I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
wholesaling houses. Um,
I mean, you could have basically launched any product. It would
yeah,
do well. If you were like above average, you just need to be above average. That's it. You need to be like genius level. You need to be just above
exactly.
average. That's it.
Yep.
Anyway, so what would you give? Yeah, what would you give advice? Because you've done this, it seems like a few times. Yeah, right now in today's landscape with the economy and all that stuff, what would you, in terms of getting distribution?
In terms of getting distribution, I think content, but I would like to know their background, right? Because like there's all sorts of things you can do. So, for example, the reason we were able to take this other company to 7 figures in 18 months again is because I just applied the call center framework to a different business model. And I knew that we could sell something at $4,000 a ticket. And I was like, well, how many do we need to bring in a month to make $1 million? And so we hired on a sales team, trained up a sales team, and like pointed it at it. And it took a couple months to dial it in, but then it started to work. Right. But it was from a previous skill set that I'd already acquired. And I knew what I
Yeah.
was doing because I knew how to train sales reps. I knew how to find good virtual talent. I knew all those things. I just had to point it in a different direction. And so if you're a newer entrepreneur, if you're just 18, you probably don't have any skills. Like when I played college football, I didn't have any skills afterwards. I worked for a guy for free for about 18 months in the real estate space.
So that's how you got the knowledge. You worked for someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and the real estate wise, that's how I did it. And we started an in-house call center, and I ended up running that investment company. Then I broke off on my own. But if you're brand new and you want to start a company, start it in something that you're familiar with. And I would say start it in something that you can grow with social media. Because right now we're looking at, I want to go into like the roll up space, right? Because yeah, these companies are good, but I don't see them reaching any scale. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And my criteria has been distribution wise, I want to be able to grow it with social media is a big one because I think it's like the strongest thing I could do. if I can have a podcast connected to it, have good affiliates with it, and do good social media with it, it'll make distribution a lot easier. If you look at like Prime and what they've done, like so, or like what Mr. Beast is doing with that, I think that's the best way to create a moat in a business that other people don't have. Because our clients who came to us from my social media, not referrals, were like laydowns. They essentially just said, "Hey, take my money. I'm ready to go." Like, I've listened to your podcast. I've seen you on other podcasts. Just take my money. I trust you. I like you. I know you.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get going.
Interesting. So maybe podcasts should be viewed differently, not as like I'm trying to be Joe Rogan. It's more like we're giving out our information is so good that now when I do sales, I can refer back to the podcast. So they learn they got basically it's an education tool for your client, right? It's not like
I'd say relationship building.
it's relationship building. Okay, got it. So it's not because I feel like a lot of people have the issue where it's like, okay, shit, I have to launch a podcast and I have to be as big as Joe Rogan in order to be some to have
No.
any impact on my company. No, it's more a relationship and information.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
To what's a good example? Because mine was just in the real estate space, and I interviewed a bunch of people who I thought were really cool, right? And now I'm interviewing people who are more in the business space because that's the space I want to go into. But if
Yeah.
you are a new entrepreneur, I think you should start a podcast because you get to interview people who would never give you the time of day, and you get to like get them for an hour. And then if you stream that to like all your social media platforms and other people see it and they listen to it, and eventually that podcast will be in a niche of what you're trying to sell into, right? Then it gets really, really good. Because I was like, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm interviewing other real estate investors on how they grew their companies. And then I just mentioned my company. It was at that point in time, it was Call Magicians. If you guys need cold callers or leads managers or any type of virtual assistant, go to callmagicians.com and we'll take care of you. Right.
Yeah.
But during that whole time, they'd hear me interview someone who's built like a 8 or 9 figure real estate portfolio. Well, and they get to hear my questions I ask. Right. And then they get to see it. Like it's made number one, the relationship building with other entrepreneurs is amazing and like getting free mentors. And then number two, the relationship that you build with your customers, because if they're going to listen to you for an hour, bro, like you got them. Like you're in their ear for an hour talking and
Yeah.
talking to someone else. That's very, very valuable as far as like building that strong, strong brand.
I have a question. So you said the thing about and by the way, that's brilliant. The relationship stuff. I would love to get back into that. But do you have a concern maybe that we're in an era in podcasting and video production that's
No,
like that not like blogs? Like you remember how blogs were like really great? Everyone was talking about them like 7 years ago or whatever, and then the content farm started blasting everything, and then that's it. It's like now writing a
not at
blog
all.
is like you don't think it's in that category where if Ray Dalio, just everyone's getting into it, and then it's going to be saturated, and then maybe in 2
No.
years from now. No, you don't think so?
There's going to be
Why?
an
Why?
80-20 with everything. If I
Yeah,
owned one of the top 20% of blogs in the world right now, I'd be very happy. Like imagine what I could do with that if I could just build on it, right? Because that's a
yeah,
media platform that's very strong. And
yeah,
so even with podcasts, number one, it's hard to make a good one. Like you got to be very self-aware and ask very good questions. And I don't nah, bro. I think we're a very, very long ways out. I will say though, I doubt you're gonna get to Joe Rogan size. But in order to build a valuable company around it, I don't think you need to get to Joe Rogan size or like Tim Ferriss size. We just need to be able to service the clients in that space. Like I'm listening right now that's like M&A, some M&A thing. And this dude has like 6 different sponsors. He's bringing on like all these crazy dudes from private equity. It's serving its purpose very well because he gets a free education. He gets in front of his clients that his software is going to service. Like it's
yeah,
niched. It's not
yeah,
like some very, very broad thing. But if I'm the Joe Rogan of the M&A space, I think that's very, very good. And I think that's
yeah,
possible in whatever space you're going to go into, especially in the tech world, because you guys are kind of going and creating a market and like creating a wave rather than like hopping on a wave. So I
yeah.
think
That's
that's
what
even better.
you're supposed to do that, but a lot of tech companies don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that's brilliant what you said. Like, I really like the relationship because I feel like a lot of people I speak to are like blocked in their head because it's like what are my odds of making the biggest podcast? Like zero, you know? So I think the relationship building plus giving out good information about your company, and like also like you said, right, is to connect with people that won't give you the time of day.
Yeah.
I think those things, if you focus on that, it's less intimidating, and it's like, okay, it's attainable, as opposed to not attainable, the other, like getting Joe Rogan level, you know. um cool, man. So so virtual help right now, you're saying, is not your main thing, or you're working on this
Virtual
other.
help, I mean, we own some storage facilities, we own a marketing company, we own virtual help. Um, but now virtual help, I've decided as an entrepreneur that is not a hill I want to climb.
Yeah,
If I'm looking at it, okay, I want to sell a company for $100 million. Okay, let's do the math on that. Every employee I'm going to make $5 an hour on. I can back that out. I know what the teams would have to look like to do that. So I was like, you know what, bro? I'm not going to try and get this company to 10 to $20 million in EBITDA. It sounds like an absolute nightmare and something I wouldn't want to undertake. So okay, let's start looking in the small business space and see what we could buy and see if we can grow it from there. So like but that goes into, as you grow as an entrepreneur, you learn things you like, things you don't like. Like when we had 150 employees in the call center side, it was miserable. Like I just didn't like having to deal with all those employees, and for this type of revenue that we were doing for that many employees, it wasn't worth it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And so I was like,
yeah,
eh. And I think now that this is, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it for 10 years, right? I don't see this space being around for 10 years in order to have an exit. I see
yeah.
it like kind of like it's on the decline. It's or going very, very flat. And I think if you
Got
want to
it.
deliver a really quality product, you should have an office. I've gone back and forth on this, and this will be another good thing for entrepreneurs. When you're building something, make sure you have your moat in mind and how you differentiate your product from other people. Because I have one of
Yeah,
my friends who was running a call center similar. He moved down to fucking Colombia and opened up a call center. And he's there every day on the sales floor, training them every day. And he came up with at that point in the call center space, a better product
yeah,
because he
yeah, yeah.
was
Because
there, he could control it, right?
yeah,
And so that was my first time in business, like getting beat. You know what I'm? Because that shit's gonna happen, and then you're gonna have to learn. Okay, if I want to, I see my competitors, I see what they're doing. I see this one being better. I analyzed every single way we could match that. And I was like, I don't think you can build a better culture virtually. If I really wanted to match that, I'd have to move. And that wasn't something I
yeah,
wanted.
yeah. Yeah, that's smart. Like that's an actual moat, right? Because the guy who's outsourcing to Colombia, as opposed to your friend who's there on boots on the ground,
Yeah.
training way better. There's no competition to that.
No
And
competition.
is he still doing well?
Yeah, he's still doing solid. The cold calling space has gotten a little bit harder, but I think he's the best in that industry. We pivoted out of cold calling, like I said, now we're more staffing.
Okay.
And that was one of the big reasons why, though. And I haven't even talked about this in public. It was because I was like, I don't think we can beat that product. And if we're not going to be best in the market, I don't want to do it.
And you didn't want to move to Colombia or to Thailand or something?
Like I didn't want to move to the Philippines or
Okay.
Colombia and like
Yeah,
really do that and grow it that way. I was like,
yeah.
okay. So it's not the end of the world. We might as well pivot the company anyways. I see cold calling will be very, very difficult here in the next couple of years. It already has gotten really, really hard with a bunch of government regulations.
Oh, is that why? I would think it got hard because like it's just getting harder to get to people, and like they're
No,
already cold call burnt out. Or it's not that.
no. I mean, bro, as you grow your companies, you're gonna have to reach out to people somehow, right? And I think
Yeah.
because the other company that we grew to 7 figures is all cold calling B2B,
Okay.
right? So it was all cold calling B2B with a new product, and it was like a government tax credit program that we were selling. But it was really, really, I'd say the hardest part about it was getting the data figured out of who I wanted to target. And then once we got that figured out, we just started cold calling. We bought everybody in the state of California who got a PPP loan. I have all their phone numbers, right?
And it was successful.
Yeah, and then that one did good, but then the government tax credit plan slowed down, right? And so now
Mm.
it's like, what are we gonna do now? We still wholesale houses, we still have our storage facilities, but then wholesaling houses isn't a company that you can necessarily scale. I've yet to see someone have a meaningful exit. Let's say, like if you go into tech, I personally believe you guys are going for really, really big outcomes. You aren't going for something small, right? You're not going for sell it for a couple hundred grand.
No.
It's
Yeah.
IPO or sell it up to a massive private equity company and have a really good outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or they actually don't want, like, we're in the process of pivoting, and my investors are sometimes they'll shoot down ideas that are, potentially just a few million or whatever a year, or at least that's how they see it. Yes, they do
Doesn't
not
make
like that.
financial sense, bro.
No, it
If we're
doesn't.
gonna
No.
work on something for 10 years, let's go for let's say I'm a dreamer. If I'm gonna do something for 10 years, I'm going for a fucking build it or a bust. Like, why would I not?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But they also actually prefer you to go big and lose than go big than not go big, and like
Exactly.
they don't care if you lose because they're just like betting on a thousand,
Yeah,
right? So
they don't
yeah,
give a fuck about you.
as long
You
as you go big, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think the content, I really am excited about that idea that you gave about the relationship, the podcasting thing. I think it's a different perspective on looking on that. Any other things that, because I think it's fascinating how you've done all this on your own, but I mean not on your own, but like how you build these businesses, starting, any other tips that you have, like, for starting entrepreneurs?
Know what you're good at. And this goes into the skill set to where I do not like operations. I'm not very good at operations. I'm more a sales and marketing and vision guy. And so I have had to get very good at hiring people and
Yeah.
knowing what I'm good at. And a good book for anybody, I think I have it back there. It's Unique Ability 2.0.
Unique Ability 2.0. I never heard of that. That sounds good. Unique Ability.
It's from like Dan Sullivan. He's like one of the best
Okay.
business coaches. He runs a company called Strategic Coach. And it's more of a
Okay.
workbook and it helps you learn what you're good at and like staying in because it makes working easier too. You know what I'm saying? Because like if I'm doing something I'm good at and I like, I can put my nose to the grindstone a lot easier than if I'm doing something I hate. Like if I have to look at spreadsheets all day, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, man, this is terrible. If I'm talking to people, I'm marketing, I'm leading, I'm a lot more fulfilled that way.
Yeah.
But like if I'm running a day-to-day operation and I have to be in the weeds for too long, it wears me out. I'd rather start a project. Okay, here's what it looks like. Here's what these systems need to look like. I don't care how you get it done, but let's get it done. Bring it back to me when you're done, and then we'll audit it and see if there's any
Yeah.
redundancies or anything else that we can fix, and we can keep on going.
Yeah, it really doesn't have to feel like work. When it feels like work, it's just not good, especially as an entrepreneur. You don't have a lot of time. Like if you have to sit there and, like, with your ADD, or you're having a tough time finishing whatever it is, it's better to just delegate that, right?
Yeah. So today I fired my assistant, right? And so I
Yeah.
have to get a new assistant. And I had someone message me in one of our companies saying they needed help for something. And I was just like, oh my God, why am I doing this? But it had to be done. But I
Yeah.
know that's not something I like doing. It's not something that's worth my time as far as like money equation goes. And so
Yeah.
that's why you have an assistant. And everybody thinks you're going to lose money by hiring an assistant. But in all reality, if you can go hire someone at $5 an hour in the Philippines or South America for 40 hours a week who's going to handle all of your administrative tasks, and then you as the entrepreneur can go and make it rain. Because I always say my job is to make it a massive revenue mess and make it rain money. Everyone else's job is to clean up the mess
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
organize the mess.
Wait, actually, that's something I would like to dig into. Explain to, because I've actually never gone into this. What is this assistant that you just said does? What is explain what she does on a day to day? Like, what do you give her for 8 hours a day? Like, what does she do? Like, answer your emails?
Emails, let's
So
say
she answers all your emails.
so let's say I got emails. We have a bunch of our social media content that needs to go out. We have our Facebook groups that need to be managed. We have some of our team members that need to be checked in on. In one of our companies, we have like a team of 7. There's always bullshit technical issues going on in the background that aren't
Yeah.
complicated, but they take time. Right.
Okay.
And so handling all of that, coordinating podcast guests, all those other things that you just don't want to do, helping coordinate. Me and my girlfriend have to have a date night on Friday. Hey, I need you to go reserve it here, get these movie tickets here, and then call it a day. Right. All of those things that are taking up time away from you possibly going as good one to many as possible is what I think at the beginning. I need to be talking to as many people as I can at all times and selling as many people as I can at all times in order to get eyeballs to top of funnel, bring them down to the bottom of the funnel, and sell them and bring in revenue.
Okay, and where do you recommend getting a virtual assistant that are good actually? Because obviously, if they're answering your email, they better write. I mean, their English should be good. And
Yeah, I mean, you can go. That's why we have virtual help. That's what that company does, is it finds virtual assistants for people. Um, Other places you can go is like onlinejobs.ph. I don't like Upwork. Upwork is a lot more of like a gig economy, and I
well, let's
think
stick to your company. Yeah, I think you're.
yeah,
Yeah. So your company does that. So you'll help. Also, one of the things is to help find assistants, virtual
yeah,
assistants. And how much do you guys charge, for example, for just so people know, like what do you how much you charge for? I don't know. Let's say a part-time one.
we don't do part time.
Oh, only full-time.
Yeah, it's
So
if you want to go part time, I'd say go to Upwork. Of like someone who needs to handle a couple tasks and is like a gig worker. I am in the honest opinion that if I'm going to bring someone into my company, I want them to be full time so I can dictate the culture and
got
like
it.
the way that they feel and like help grow them as a human so everybody's aligned in the same way. To where I don't really go part time, but a part time person is only going to be like $300 a month. Like it's nothing. If you like
And
raise,
what? Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. No. And how much do you guys charge for full-time? Just so people know.
I'd tell you, you're going to be anywhere between. I don't like the $4 an hour. I think if you pay above market, it's better.
Okay,
So like you're going to be at 550 up to $12 an hour, depending on the role that you want to fulfill.
got it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Okay, cool. Well, this was a really nice chat. I just wanted the truth. My main thing is to like find one really solid tip, hopefully, and of course, learn about cool companies. I loved. Yeah, I love what you're doing. And yeah, I think we did get one good tip in. Do you agree, or you
Yeah,
want to?
I hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Cool, man. So yeah, I'll shoot an email to you after this, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Of course. Thank
Oh,
you,
wait,
Michael.
sorry. Where could we follow you on social media? What's your
My
yeah, could you
Instagram
give
is
me
StratDaddy, STRATTDADDYY.
okay, so we can follow you there. Okay, yeah, I found you. All right, Stratton, it was really nice talking to you.
Yep. Thanks,
Have a
Michael.
wonderful day. Okay, all the best. Bye.